Yep, I hear you good.
And we're live. So, the other day I was told that I was going to hell because I promote veganism, and it got me thinking I should probably at least host some sort of discussion or debate with some of my friends that I know feel strongly about this. And I had a bunch of people to pick, and I picked Nicholas and Jason, because I've heard both of them have very strong opinions about the subject on both ends. So I don't know. I just kind of picked the premise: is Christianity against veganism? We could totally change that. We can. I don't know if this is going to be over with in 10 minutes, or I don't know if we're going to do a series of 20 of these. So I just thought it would be interesting, and whatever you guys want to do. I'm totally up for.
I've never done it.
Nicholas,
I've never done
nice to meet
anything with.
you.
Nice to
First of
meet you
all,
too, Jason.
so
Hi.
are you a Christian that is vegan, or are you an atheist that's vegan? Because he didn't let me know what your viewpoint is, what your perspective is, just vaguely kind of thing. Are you a Christian?
I used to be.
Okay, so you're atheist at the moment?
No. I never stopped believing in who I was praying to,
Okay.
who I thought I was praying to, and
Yeah.
that's just over time. It's become very interesting. I feel like my worship was misdirected in the beginning, and now it's focused on the entity that created my soul. That's who I refer to as God. And I do see that as a separate entity than the creator of the vessel that our soul temporarily indwells. I think that's a lower demiurge that has lower demiurge behaviors and immaturities and just demonstrable differences than love and free will.
Yeah. So it's kind of like your unique spiritual walk. It doesn't fit into any of Christian and Muslim.
Correct. There's no support system that's allowed in any legitimate ecclesiastical interface that's provided for people that follow the teachings of Pythagoras.
Sure.
But I'm following the. I didn't know this. I was slowly coming to it, but I'm following the occulted teachings of who I'm finding out was the original righteous teacher, and around 500 BC. And that became an office that other Zadoks facilitated, like John the Baptist, James the Just. But
Sure.
they weren't the original. It turns out it was Pythagoras, and that's what the religions are all hiding. And right after his death, there's no coincidence that we find that Ezra compiled the Old Testament, and the Buddhism emerged with the 7-year-old son of an emperor. They took all of those Pythagorean teachings and then did just enough of a twist on the rudder to turn them into something that was pro-government and pro-taxes and pro-money, which was the opposite of what Pythagoras taught.
Would if I'm taking more like Orthodox or traditional Christian perspective, that's my worldview. If I could probably get my point across in maybe 5 minutes, and I'll just answer is Christianity against veganism? I think the way it was worded was that way. Okay.
Yeah, I've never heard it presented that way. It was very interesting that somebody asked the question because
I think we can get this way. I think I can get my point across very quickly using just the biblical passages, and then after we can just go from there. Since the question is Christianity against veganism? I'm the only Christian, so I'll just kind of defend that statement or make that claim, and I'll do it really fast, not to steal all the time. Is it okay, Jeff, if I present the screen?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Okay, is Christian entire screen. Share screen. Okay, here you go. Okay, so obviously, from the start, we're in the Garden of Eden. God did not plan, right, any death, any decay, and obviously no killing other species to survive. We're in paradise. That's, I think, very clear. I don't think anybody would object to, yeah, that's the way Christians saw it in Eden. So we were definitely not omnivorous. We were not eating an omnivorous diet. Obviously, they talk about the tree of life and what is this metaphysical state. It seemed to be very different than what we refer to as the fallen state, with disease and all of the decay and the death that we see for other species to survive, that they're kind of against each other. So the first thing, as a Christian, Christians don't concentrate primarily on the things of this world. They're concentrating on spiritual things. For sure, those have consequences in this world as well. But Jesus didn't come to effect social changes on that level. So here it just brings it: do not work for food that spoils, but for food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. For on him God the Father has placed his seal of approval. So these are just kind of the using words about eating to say we're talking about spiritual things, spiritual thirst, spiritual hunger. Jesus says, again, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry. What? Spiritually. And whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. So it's very clear. If I'm a Christian, I'm going to have to try and use the Bible as a guide, right? So in Colossians, it's very clear. Therefore, do not let anyone judge you by what you eat or drink, or with regards to religious festivals, a new moon celebration, or a Sabbath day. These are shadows of the things that were to come. The reality, however, is found in Christ. So already it's saying, guys, don't start fighting over things that you eat and drink. And this was big, right? Because like, all around Israel is paganism, and there was a lot of stuff. So
who wrote Colossians? If I'm allowed to know that.
Do you mind if I just finish?
I'll wait till you're done. I'll wait till you're done.
Okay. So Garden of Eden, Genesis. Then God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. They will be yours for food only. So Garden of Eden, again, not meat eating. This is in paradise, and there's some different metaphysical state where we can sustain ourselves with these seed-bearing things. After the fall in Genesis, this is where all of a sudden God starts saying that now I give you everything. So then God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth. The fear and dread of you will fall on all the beasts of the earth and all the birds of the sky, on every creature that moves along the ground, and all the fish in the sea. They are given into your hands. Everything that lives and moves about will be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, I now give you everything. So now all of a sudden, now it's allowing for food. And there's something metaphysical that's happening. All of a sudden, the beasts are also afraid of us now. This also happened at the fall, the changes of thorns and thistles appearing. So this initial Garden of Eden paradise, which God is going to bring us back to. We're vegan at the start, and we're definitely vegan or fruitarian at the end. But the middle, it's very clear that the Bible is allowing. So if a Christian is taking this as the word of God, that it's inspired, he has to take it and say, God is allowing these things. We see here, look, this is in Revelation. This is the end of the story. So everyone likes the start of the story. and everyone wants to get to the end of the story. So a new heaven and a new earth. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there were no longer any sea. I saw the holy sea, the new Jerusalem, coming out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, beautiful, dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God." So here, this is a promise. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death. So there's a huge metaphysical change here. Okay, there's no more death. There's no more mourning in this new creation. There's no more crying. There's no more pain. The older order, okay, which was fallen due to sin and has passed away. And he says that he makes everything new. Here again, it's just talking about Eden restored. Isaiah here, this is what creation will look like when Christ arrives and sets up the millennial kingdom. The wolf also will dwell with the lamb. So predator and prey are dwelling together. The leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together. A little child shall lead them, and the cow and the bear shall feed. Their young ones shall lie together, and the lions. You get the point that there's no more predator and prey. There's children putting their hands in viper nests and things like that. But yes, indeed, in the middle, when we get to Leviticus, we see that God is not only allowing us through, I give this as food for you to eat. He's setting up, which would look horrible for vegan. A vegan is a sacrificial system. Okay, where morning and evening and annually and monthly and all of these sacrifices of calves, doves, rams and lambs and things of these sorts. And so God himself is setting up this ceremonial, symbolic representation of what will be fulfilled in Christ. So for a Christian, and like I said, I'm just saying, as a Christian, for me to start turning around and saying that the eating of animals is evil, it's murder, it's rape, these kind of words, that's the only thing that I think that a Christian would be very careful at proclaiming. A Christian can be vegan if their own conscience tells them that they feel bad, okay, they don't like the system, whatever reason, their conscience doesn't allow them to put something in their mouth, okay, they feel like they are going against their conscience. It is very clear, okay, that the Christian is allowed to be vegan, okay, but he specifically says, do not quarrel over food, because God has said you can eat this and you can eat that, because there was a lot of quarreling that was going on. 1 Corinthians, the Christian has to say, but food does not bring us near to God. We are no worse if we do not eat, and no better if we do. Okay, and I'll just jump over to here. And he called the people to him again and said to them, hear me, all of you, and understand. There is nothing outside a person that is going into him that can defile him. But the things that come out of a person are what defile him. And when he had entered the house and left the people, his disciples asked him about the parable. And he said to them, then are you also without understanding? Do you not see that whatever goes into a person from outside cannot defile them, since it enters not his heart, but his stomach, and is expelled? Thus he declared all foods clean. And he said, what comes out of a person is what defiles him. For from within, out of the heart of man, comes evil thoughts, etc. So, again, the weak and the strong, it's saying, accept the one whose faith is weak without quarreling over disputable matters. One person's faith allows them to eat anything, but another's whose faith is weak eats only vegetables. And that's not a shot. That doesn't mean oh, you're weak, you eat vegetables. They just mean that from the Christian perspective, there is no problem with eating animal food, but there are some people that have issues with it. They've come from different pagan religions, and for them, they feel like their conscience is seared. So what they're saying is, it's hard enough that we're trying to start a church, okay, and become spiritual here through Christ. Don't fight over food, because that is not spiritual. It's not a spiritual matter. So one person's faith allows them to eat anything, and another whose faith is weak eats only vegetables. The one who eats anything must not treat with contempt the one who does not, and the one who does not eat everything must not judge the one who does, for God has accepted them. Who are you to judge someone else's servant to their own master, blah, blah, blah. So I have some other stuff, but I think it's quite clear that if we're just going from the title that we have here, guys, is Christianity against veganism? 100% no. If we go by the scriptures, it is very clear that it was an issue. Even Paul had to say, listen, if you accept this, go for it. But don't turn to your brother and tell them that they're evil, and vice versa. So the only thing I would say is, let's say, give me the definitions, because it has evolved a little bit, the definition of veganism. The only thing that I think would be anti-Christian would be to say to the people that you are morally wrong, it's evil, it's bad, it's so and so. Because if you're a Christian saying that, you're putting yourself in a position where God's saying something is good or is allowing something, and you as a Christian is saying, no, it's bad. So then as a Christian, you have to make a decision. Am I starting to say some things in the Bible aren't good, some things are? It's just a dangerous road. And I'm going to shut up. I think that's the only thing I can really.
That was a good start, and I didn't plan anything like that. So you're going to get a lot more time than me because of that start. Because I'm not going to go on. I'm going to probably do
go ahead.
Smaller things and let you chime in. I've never done this before. I'm kind of a rookie at it. I've just done conversations on YouTube and stuff. So stop me if I'm out of line in any way. But I'm going to start with the simplest thing. One definition that hasn't changed in a long time is weakness. And Paul was clear when he said that the weaker of the two decisions is the one that eats vegetables. Now, what we find in the Dead Sea Scrolls, more often than any other book in the Old Testament, is an affinity for the book of Daniel. And the reason for that is he shared their diet.
Yeah.
And so did the crucified person. And so there was a very significant thing that happened over a decade after the crucified person was crucified, where Paul, somewhere I think between 13 and 15 years after the crucifixion, and now Paul is a half-brother of Herod Agrippa, and he was rising in the ranks of the tax collector dynasty under Agrippa through marriage. And he was with 500 of his Greek cohorts, or witnesses, mercenaries, and they were on the road to Damascus, and they had a vision of an apparition of the ghost of Jesus Christ, who we refer to now as Jesus. What the name that was in the original book was likely Yeshua, or the inscription XI or something like that. But today, just for everybody's easy reference, we're going to say it was the ghost of the person that we today call Jesus Christ. And what was one of the most significant things that this apparition told him and his 500 mercenaries was that all food is now blessed. And that wouldn't have been significant if that was already the case.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you talk.
Yeah, like definitely Daniel and stuff like that. They asked Nebuchadnezzar, we want to just follow our own diet and stuff like that. There's a couple things. I've already done a video saying quite simply, if we could have all the essential nutrients, okay, everything in ample amounts, okay, to thrive, all of it in plant foods, it would be, I'd agree, it would be wrong. Like, there's no purpose. Like, I can get everything over here. So my first objection to, let's say, like, is eating animals on spiritual, you could say, you know, and stuff like that. The research that I did when I started, I was fatter. I did a ketogenic diet, and one of my friends, at the same time, he became vegan. So you know, when you're new at a diet, you both, you know, are really into it. And I wanted to research it a lot because, like, I had the, you know, higher fat, cholesterol, heart disease, stuff like that. So I kind of like, you know, pretty much looked into it that way. And so it wasn't really planned for me to look into veganism. I had been, it wasn't for the animals. So I was eating a plant-based diet, which I refer to as vegan at one point. I didn't even have a bad experience. I did about a year and a half. And then I stopped it. I didn't like that I didn't like the menu. I didn't put much effort, you know, into it or anything at all like that. But I definitely did a little bit of veganism and stuff like that. So my issue is that I truly believe that the vegan diet over the long term will put people at susceptible nutrient deficiencies and stuff like that. And if veganism is trying to say, like, we'd like a vegan world, like, we'd like to have, you know, this to be sustainable, this is the, you know, the way to go. There are gene variants, like the BCO1 gene variant, that the human cannot convert beta carotene into vitamin A, into retinol. Okay, so massive amounts of population. For me, I go, well, you know what? If there's a nutrient deficiency that could occur, and now you've removed all retinol sources, because all retinol comes from animals, so I have to work with beta carotene. It would be like really weird, because they'd have to, like, pharmaceutically create retinol in some way for vegans who have this BCO1 gene variants and stuff like that.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. So for me, it's concerns about long-term nutrient deficiencies happening. I have concerns with the ALA.
Let's keep this to the Christian topic.
Well, the Christian for
this we could go crazy and get into the health stuff, but we're talking about. We're talking about, you know.
I'll put it short. What I mean by, I think that Christianity is very clear. Don't fight over food. Okay, stop wasting your time with that. But I was just saying, for me, if I was able to get everything without having any animals, and I got all those nutrients, not by supplements, literally, because it's whole food and plant-based, and I could get that, I would choose for that. I am saying that I do not believe that the evidence shows that you are covered amply with all of your nutrients, and that on a mass scale, I would be very concerned that some people would really unknowingly get some really crappy nutrient deficiencies, like the ALA that's converted very, very poorly and stuff like that. So if I can prove that there is dangers and nutrient deficiencies in putting this on a mass scale, then I can say my concern is truly that I am concerned that our population will not thrive. If you don't have a thriving next generation, that's adding human suffering in a way as well. So I won't beat the horse with that. I'm just saying spirituality. I think that it is not unspiritual to kill an animal. I think that, and you know, Jeffrey, you know, with Garland Farms, we believe in regenerative farming of ruminant animals outside. I care about how they live. I don't really care about the few seconds it takes to kill them. I care about living conditions. What's your thought on that? Because
I'm going to start out by saying that I'm an ex-football player who used to make fun of vegans. I became vegan 7 years ago. And I was making fun of them right up until the time that I found out that it cured many diseases that no one knew how to deal with. And it was because of a person that I was dating that had something that couldn't even be tested for in a hospital, because they don't test for everything for some reason that I couldn't figure out. And then I figured it out later. And without going into that, all the naturopaths that were teaching people how to beat these exotic diseases were using one simple rule to start with, which was getting off of all flesh. And it turns out that these undetectable parasites that our hospitals are hobbled in being able to test for, specifically rickettsias, if anybody wants to look up what I'm talking about to make sure that I know what I'm talking about, they cannot test for those in hospitals in the United States. So hundreds of illnesses that are misdiagnosed in the United States are actually intracellular bacteria that feed on the undigested flesh in the GI tract of meat eaters. Now, you would think that the government doesn't know anything about this, but it turns out that they do. There's a desirable outcome that happens in the consciousness of a human being that is under the effect of these parasites. And Pythagoras talked about this 2,500 years ago and wouldn't even let people into his little fight club called the Sons of Light unless they were first vegan, so that their consciousness was at 100% of the bandwidth of capability that the human body was designed to be at. And he said that people of his caliber of consciousness did not consume carcasses. And he probably didn't know what William Bergdorfer taught naturopaths in the last 50 years with his whistleblowing about what our army has been up to at Fort Detrick in Maryland with the weaponizing of these undetectable rickettsias like Rickettsia helvetica, also known as Swiss Agent USA. If anybody does the research on these, you'll find out that that this is what the most advanced researchers in Lyme disease are finding out. They're finding out that this is where it all started, with trying to control the human consciousness and free will by aerosolizing compounds over them. So the government's been bent on controlling people through unknown parasitic infection through the forced consumption of meat and dairy, at least since 1950, according to William Bergdorfer. And this was coupled with, this accidentally happened as a side shoot of research I was doing 2,000 years ago into a change that happened in the original teaching of the Essene fourth philosophy teachers of righteousness that were crucified and persecuted. And then somehow their script was flipped and they were called Christian. And now their diet's like whatever you want, and they're okay with paying taxes. And Romans chapter 13 says it all, that you submit to government. And hopefully after COVID now we can see that was a bad idea. But what my research is showing is that the reason that we have to use ovens and forged steel objects to consume these products is because we weren't meant to. And it's likely that even dogs live longer on a vegan diet if they're raised that way and properly. But I'll agree with you that an uneducated person that goes down the road of the diet of Daniel and the Essenes, who could take on the Romans 5-1 because they were so strong. And this is why all of the best gladiators were also vegan back then. They were stronger. They lived longer. According to Josephus, he said that the vegans living in the desert and under the fourth philosophy of Judas the Galilean and James the Just, his brother, were living to be on average over 100 years old 2,000 years ago, when the average meat eater couldn't make it past 40 or 50. So we knew, according to the most primary first century source, and the best support that we have for the New Testament is Josephus and the Roman government. And he was also telling us that the best diet for living to be over 100 on average was vegan. And that information somehow missed us in school. And I'm finding that there was a political reason for that. They don't want us living to be over 100 on average. But this information is 2,000 years old. The government's been up to this for a long time.
Have you ever read?
It changes your consciousness to one of bloodlust. You're okay with war. You're okay with kind of hate and lower vibrational stuff. And that's why it was put into the design of Christianity, so that it could feed that low vibrational tax collecting, that desirable political outcome and consciousness. that cognitive dissonance, that willingness to submit to a tyrannical government over and over and over without waking up to the pattern. And that's what meat does.
The Kellogg's says that meat makes you lustful. If you're removing, first of all, fat, there's fat soluble vitamins, and fat soluble vitamins are found in fat. So they're very important. And
I take 5 limited. Fats a day.
Yeah. So if you're eating the fat soluble vitamins, dietary cholesterol, I can show you that does not increase cholesterol. Your body needs cholesterol. So vitamin D3, cholesterol, saturated fat, all of these things are being skimped on. Your sex hormones will not be optimized. So eventually you get a lower libido. We see on YouTube, YouTubers and stuff like that, it's like, how to deal with loss of period, how to deal with, there's a lot of that.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. In my first 2 years, that's what I experienced. Go ahead.
And if you're doing a spiritual path, yeah, it would work. What I would say is this: the majority.
Well, no, it is working now. I mean, I'm 8 years into this, so like I figured this out in 2 years. But the first 2 years being vegan, I almost withered away and died because of my lack of education on everything you're talking about. But that shouldn't scare people from going down the road, because at the end of the yellow brick road, there's a big reward, and it means you live to be over 100 on average. It kills all diseases, and you're actually stronger. I mean, like, I don't know if you're familiar with the guy who, nobody's the world's strongest man forever, but one of the more recent ones was vegan. And I myself was able to bench press 350 pounds for the first time 4 months ago as a vegan. And then I hurt my shoulder, but now I'm back, and I'm right back at that weight again. And I'm never going to do a 1 rep max. Now I'm maxing out at like 250, 260, and I'll just keep the reps up, increasing them to maybe 6 or 7 reps, but I'll never go that high again, just because I'm almost 50 years old. But I would encourage no hopes that I was going to get that strong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look good.
Thanks. That's not what I'm fishing for. I just wanted you to know that, like, as somebody who's not a bodybuilder, who just does this on the side, I want you to, my bench is getting up to there now as a vegan.
There is a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. It's by Weston A. Price. I would have you read that. I find it's a very unique book where he's a dentist. He went to, I don't know if it's about 20.
We've all heard who he is, Jason.
Okay, well, did he? Okay, thank you. Did you hear?
No, I don't know who he is, but go ahead. Right? What did the dentist say? I don't trust dentists because
the basic thing is he went to various civilizations that were not in contact with modernity, modern man, and our food stuff and consumption. So he went there and he looked what they ate, what they weren't eating, and he took all dental measurements, basically a physical, looking at what diseases and stuff like that. All of these cultures all had animal food. There was the Maasai that were almost completely carnivorous. The whole point is they all had omnivorous diets. They were very limited. They didn't have a wide variety. Oh, I'm going to have fish today. I'm going to have some chicken. I'm going to have some pork. Most of them had like about 3 staple foods. They all took advantage of some kind of carbohydrate like grains, rice, and stuff like that to eat. They didn't have any of the modern diseases. Also, Plato and those people were very big on fasting. And a lot of the health benefits that you'll get is actually from autophagy that's activated when you're in a fasted state. Autophagy is like a recycling, cleaning center, which we never, ever are told to get into that. We're told to eat in the morning, all throughout the day, and stuff like that.
It breeds parasites to not know about that. And fasting makes people that have parasite issues feel better. But when you go pure vegan, you don't have those issues. You can eat all the time. That's why a lot of vegans do eat all the time.
Anecdotal, because I'll accept it as anecdotal, because if you go to the ketogenic community and stuff like that, a bunch of previously pre-diabetic fat people that started eating protein fat and started avoiding the carbohydrates, and it allowed them easier access to their fat storage. Then they noticed that their, type 2 diabetes is reversed, hypertension is reversed, and stuff. So I think there's benefits, definitely. What I'm saying is, you can't make
Christianity is hiding the fact that the fourth philosophy members under John the Baptist, Judas the Galilean, James the Just, were all vegan, and the fact that Paul was one of the major, that's called the Pauline doctrine for a reason, would flip the script and said all food is blessed after he saw a ghost. But what he was flipping the script on was clearly said by Josephus was a perfect vegan diet. He used the word perfect. And he said that perfect diet was the reason they were living to be on average over 100 years old. Now, where is that in the Christian story if it's at all authentic and based on authentic history?
Yeah, well, that's why usually I do PowerPoint presentations, because I'm not cutting you off on what you're saying, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, well, where's your proof? Where's your proof? Where's your proof? Kind of thing.
Where's my proof? I mean, the Bible. The Bible's the proof. I mean, Paul had the vision on the road to Damascus. Okay. And if you remember, one of the most
for vegans, John the Baptist,
John the Baptist, James the Just, who the Bible never gets his name right, because I've found that it's nefariously twisting the story. They called Judas the Galilean, according to Josephus, the founder of the fourth philosophy. They misname him with an anagram that is Iscariot, which is a twisting of the word, the leader of the Sicaria. So we have Judas Iscariot instead of Judas the Galilean. We have John the Baptist, who is properly named, and then we have James the Just, who the Bible calls James the Less. But when Paul is telling the crowd, with his slide of, the weaker ones are the vegans, and you kind of poo-pooed that away and tried to justify it and act as an apologist.
I said it wasn't a shot. What Paul's saying is there's those coming that do believe that that's an issue, and if that's an issue for them now, don't go after them.
He was in a debate. He was in a debate with James. James was standing right there. He was
for me, I'll leave it at this.
James right in front of the crowd.
I'll leave it at this. The question here is Christianity against veganism? So I answered that using biblical texts to say it's very clear that the New Testament.
I'm saying that the crucified person was vegan, and so Christianity obviously is against veganism.
But he ate fish, though. So he didn't eat fish that was corrupted. Because the minute somebody is going to say like he's vegan, when he clearly multiplied the fish on the boat to the point where the nets broke, he was hungry after the resurrection. And
you might want to write this down. That was a story to, if you've ever heard of Pesher, Pesher, it has to do with double meaning. And one of the reasons that they wrote in Pesher is so that the people that had the secret decoder ring, the sons of light, could actually break the code. But the Pesher that's happening there, that's being pitched by the bad guys without the adept knowing it, is that they were casting the nets of Belial. I think it's spelled Beliel.
Yeah, Belial. Yeah,
Belial.
Or Belial.
And so if you look up the three nets of Belial, they all have to do with the consumption of carrion, which is meat, or any sacrificial food, and then the drinking of blood, and then also, this doesn't go to our point, but it's having sex with women that are still menstruating, stuff like that. But anybody that was participating in these behaviors were trapped in the nets of Belial. And Belial tries to capture men like fish. And so what the Romans were doing as very adept black magicians, and they were using very adept black magicians to do this, they were pitching the nets of Belial through blood and flesh consumption and using men as recruits to be fishers of other men for Belial. So it's deeply satanic. And when you understand that Saturn is Satan and that he's a god of blood sacrifice who's deeply invigorated by when blood hits the ground.
Yeah,
for
like
any reason on earth, especially
I
if it's in
did the
worship.
backwards. So I did for 20 years. 2019, I finally became Christian. So I did all of, you know, the search and stuff like that. I went through all of the various religions, thought processes, and stuff like that. For me, I was invited, kind of like yesterday. Is Christianity against veganism? Can we agree that Christianity is not against veganism?
Well, it was designed against veganism. It was designed to worship a flesh and blood consuming a God that wants that type of thing. And
So you're making assumptions. All I'm saying is I showed with Bible passages what I'm saying. So
right.
if you're going to do that, then it's you need to
anybody
bring
with a search engine,
bring a bit of evidence so that it's not like hearsay and stuff like that.
I don't remember
All
where
I'm
in the
saying,
Old Testament that God says that he's pleased by the smell of burning flesh and sacrifice, but you and I both know it says it.
no, he says that he's not pleased with a burnt offering and sacrifices. God's not pleased with it.
He was pleased by it.
No. Well, he might have.
There were instances where he wasn't because it was corrupted. But whenever
in the New Testament, it says that these were ceremonial things pointing to Christ, so that the sacrifice of bulls and stuff like that never really took away sin. So it wasn't pleasing to God. But
what about the consumption of the blood in the body of Christ? What about the consumption of the blood in the body of Christ? How is that not clearly a violation of the three nets of Belial?
The blood was spilt and his body was broken, just like Isaiah and the prophets and the messianic prophecies say for him. So we had the first covenant, the Mosaic covenant, right? So it was consummated with the sacrifice. They put water and they put blood. I think it's a hyssop branch, and they sprinkled the covenant with the blood, sprinkled the people. When Jesus was crucified, he was the fulfillment of the first one, which was symbolic and written on stones. This is the fulfillment, and his body as well was broken, and it says he sprinkled many. So it's looking. That's when you start looking. There was a little blood
in the first one, though. There was some real blood in the first one, but
tons of blood.
It was more symbolic. Yes.
So what I'm saying is, the guy who told Jeffrey that he's Christian, he's going to hell. Okay, is totally going against the mainstream Christian narrative there. Okay, so that's the first things first. I showed multiple things where it's like he's saying, stop, like you guys, if your conscience is killing you, go with it. You know, it's like it's very clear that they're stepping back. Jesus is saying what goes in comes out the other side. It has nothing to do with spirituality. It doesn't defile you spiritual. That's why I showed a lot of those passages.
But Jesus, but the person that was crucified never said that anything that went in your mouth was fine. He never said that.
Well, all I could say is
you're saying you're taking a quote from a third party that said that Jesus said that.
Everything. I'm Christian, so
right. I used to be.
I'm asked, is Christianity against vegan? So as a Christian, I came with the Christian scripture, using the Christian scripture to respond to that specific question.
And weakness was clear. Clearly,
debate
you brought
is
that
not
across to us.
Reliance is as a bit. That's a long debate that you know we could have. But to be honest, when you get into those kind of reliability debates and stuff, I personally, I don't have a PhD in New Testament theology and stuff like that. So I usually go and watch the academics debate because I'm not going to go into that much depth. Jeff asked me specifically about Christianity. I think that Christianity
I mean,
is
we're sticking to the subject of Christianity. Josephus is the primary first source for Christianity. There would be no backing for Jesus's existence in the first century if we didn't
then please
trust
show me the evidence then where Josephus is saying that, and then you can present the screen.
The evidence where Josephus says that the fourth philosophy members in the desert were living to be over 100 years on average because of their perfect diet.
Whatever you like. What I'm saying is
I don't have that. Wasn't ready, but anybody, this is recorded for posterity. So let my reputation rest on that. If anybody
you're not
knows how to use a search bar.
No, I understand. All I'm saying is I was invited. I feel that I answered. The answer is Christianity against. No, it's not. It is not for even. It's kind of neutral. It's saying that this is food isn't what defiles you, isn't what makes you more spiritual or less. I am using the New Testament scriptures that I feel are reliable enough, authentic. I don't doubt that. So that's why I'll be using those. If you want to go,
I'm using the ones you used. You said they're weak, that we vegans are weak, and so we can stick to that. But Paul said clearly that the vegans are weak compared to the meat eaters. How are you going to tell me that I made
go get another one? I can go get another thing where it's used something other than weak. I don't like it because it sounds like it's a jab.
It is a jab. The whole thing was meant to flip the script on the original diet. Because if you do that, you lower the consciousness of the flock.
Right. But for me, it's okay. So
it's Yahweh, not for you. It's subjective truth.
Yahweh is low vibration, right? And then Jesus didn't. So there's just too much stuff that's in the actual Bible as is. Okay, that you're saying that's not good. That's been added. This is false. This is not true. So
I'm sticking to what you said. He said that Paul said that, and what you didn't know about that story is that James the Just, who they called James the Less, because they're constantly trying to diminish the vegans. And that's the whole point of us sitting here having this conversation.
They had way bigger issues than diet. Everything in the New Testament keeps on trying to neutralize the debates about these food things, about what's clean. Peter, same thing. God comes and he comes with a white sheet with the animals and he says, eat. And Peter denies it 4 times.
And the Messiah calls Peter Satan.
All food, right. So you are now just
black magic.
No, you're just saying,
I didn't write it, but Jesus called him Satan and said, get behind me. And then we're going to follow Peter's advice on diet.
Okay. I feel that there's not much more.
Was Jesus just shooting off at the mouth?
Is Christianity against veganism? That was the question. It is not. And
clearly it is, because your only 2 examples are Peter, who is a fabrication at best, and at worst is what we just talked about. And then we have Paul, who is the second cousin of Herod Agrippa, married into the family, who was raised to be a tax collector in Tarsus. And he comes in and takes over the movement, monetizes it, and makes it a meat-eating movement. And it was neither. It was anti-money and it was anti-meat. It was anti-money. The guy even turned over money changers' tables to make the point, and still the terrorist organization that controls the narrative today was able to obfuscate his reasons for doing so. So that we still don't know that money and meat are the reason we have government.
He flipped the money tables because they were selling inside the court where it's supposed to be prayer.
They were anti-money. The fourth philosophy was an anti-money movement. No one denies that.
It was Rome. Rome was all about the wallet.
They didn't like the census because they knew what comes next. They count them and then they tax them. But they didn't even have money. They didn't participate in money. But what does Jesus do? Jesus sends one of his disciples to go get a fishing pole and cast it into the sea and catch a fish where magically a gold talisman or medallion would save them.
Where
from
is this? This is
questioning.
nowhere. These are extra biblical stuff there. You're
No, you're
this is not in the
embarrassing
Bible.
yourself in posterity, because this is recorded, and other people that know this part of the
Right.
Bible. This
So
is where
where
Jesus
in the
pays his
Bible?
taxes. This is where he escapes assassination by paying his taxes. You won't have a hard time finding
He
this.
says he knows that they're trying to trap him in a snare. So he says, whose picture is on there? It says Caesar's. He's like, then give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God. Jesus didn't come here as a social revolutionary. He came to deal
did
with
pay
sin
taxes one time. And that was, to finish my story, he sent a
you're
disciple
too
to catch a fish, again, Belial. And then inside the fish was the money against sin, the name of the moon, and the influence of the moon was always sin. And money is named after the moon's influence. He catches it in the fish, and then he pays the taxes and gets himself out of the predicament of whether or not you should pay your taxes. And then what does Paul and the tax collectors do? They use it for 2,000 years to tax the shit out of us. And we just keep arbitrarily doing it, waiting for Jesus to come save us. It's all part of a black magic design.
Okay. I'm pretty confident with the New Testament, but
me too.
I can be wrong. I have no idea where you're getting that.
Everyone that has read the New Testament and has even memorized half of it knows about where the disciple catches the fish and finds the golden medallion inside the fish that gets them off the hook and pays the taxes. But nobody's got money because they're anti-money.
I'm going to write disciple catches fish. What else can I write?
The disciple goes and actually grabs a fishing pole and casts it into, I don't even think he baits it. I think he has faith that God's going to provide, and God does.
Okay, so look, what can I write? Disciple catches fish. What else can I just write?
Disciple catches fish to pay taxes for Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I wasn't ready. I got stuck at the grocery store. I meant to get set up so I could do this for us.
Let me see. It's the reason why I try and do the daily bread, because I don't know everything. So let's check it out.
While you're looking for it, just so
I got it.
Okay.
Disciple Matthew. Okay. So it says, when Jesus and his followers came to Capernaum, the men who collected the temple tax came to Peter. They asked, does your teacher pay the temple tax? Peter answered, yes, Jesus pays the tax. Peter went into the house, but before he could speak, Jesus said to him, what do you think? The kings of the earth collect different kinds of taxes, but who pays the taxes? The king's children or others? You know what, man? This is something that is new to me.
That's all right. It was new to me too. When I was a born again Christian, these things did not stand out in my mind. They were arbitrary, and that's how gnosis works.
But before he could speak, Jesus, I just want to read what he's saying. Jesus said to him, what do you think? The kings of the earth collect different kinds of taxes, but who pays the tax? The king's children or others? Peter answered, other people pay the taxes. Jesus said to Peter, then the children of the king don't have to pay taxes, but we don't want to upset these tax collectors. So go to the lake and fish, and you catch the first fish, open its mouth, and you will find a coin. Take that coin and give it to the tax collectors for me. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, well, it's no different than the other one. He's basically saying pay taxes.
Well, he's saying that God's children shouldn't pay taxes, but then he's saying pay taxes. And
where does it say he shouldn't pay taxes?
Well, you were the one that said it just now when you read that verse. It said something about how the children, the king.
No. The one that I had was when they were trying to get him again, and they said about the taxes, and he said, whose picture is it? Because Jesus.
Oh no, yeah, that was a different one. The one you just read, though.
It was kind of like proving the both point. Like, to me, I see that as God saying, yeah, you know what? The taxes, I don't care. I'm here for a kingdom that's not of this world. I'm here to deal with with sin for my first coming. I'm dealing with a very specific thing, and I will return. And for the second coming.
These things seem a little confusing, but that's easy to understand once we understand what Josephus said, that this whole rebellion was anti-money and anti-taxes. So it's purposefully confusing because it wants you to pay your taxes. This is a government psyop.
What I want to see would be kind of like, where are you getting it? Like, kind of like screenshot here. This is where I'm getting. So at least I get an idea. Like, oh, I want to go see your source to, like you said, for posterity. To go back and look at after and stuff like that. Because there are a lot of attacks as well there on the Bible, like all sorts of stuff. I have done my due diligence to challenge
deferred
myself.
by our government, so that's suspect.
For me, unless we're turning into like, we're getting closer and closer to completely like a genocidal government and stuff like that. The majority of the time, what I'm getting at is that anarchy, like complete anarchy. Christians are not called to just completely, topple the government. They can do like civil disobedience, things like that, and not go against, God if the government's asking you to do anything. But
Revelations is a great example of stand down because Jesus will handle everything later. And like,
well, we should stand up to societal wrongs. We should get up, put our pants on, function in society, and use our beliefs to support societal things that fall into that view. 100%.
But one of the things
I would say
us
because they've
diet
left.
When we do that.
Pardon?
One of the things that affects our ability to put our pants on and get up and do righteousness is our diet, because it affects the bacteria that's in our first brain. And when we were kids, we were told that our consciousness is ruled by our first brain. We kind of forget that as adults, but the government didn't forget it. They started playing around in there.
Big pharma.
And the way that you get rid of that, and this isn't new. They just had access to biological methodologies 70 years ago that they didn't have 2,000 years ago. But 2,000 years ago, the same type of parasitic consciousness that was trying to monetize our thought process knew that meat was a key component of monetizing the human thought process and making it submit to authority. And so it turns out that vegans don't do well with authority, and meat eaters kind of welcome it. They like babysitters, and they obviously they demonstrate the need for babysitters. And I figured out why that is. It's because we're the only primate that has the same digestive system as pigs. And so we turn into werewolves when we eat meat, just like pigs do. We can do it through an ice age. If we have to eat each other, we can do that. But if you start doing that when things are good outside and it's warm, you're just creating a parasite infrastructure inside your inside your gut biome that's dictating your consciousness in a way that's absolutely real. And Mark Passio goes into that deeply.
It's a lot. Look, when you're getting into nutritional science and stuff like that, and you're starting to get into epidemiological, observational, now you're talking about links and risk, and majority of the population thinks that all these mean causation and stuff like that. I think that there's a historical precedence of eating meat. I think nutrition and physical generation shows that they were thriving on omnivorous diets. I think the majority of us are extremely sick because there are too many carbohydrates, and the fat that is heavily removed is replaced with seed oils that are high in omega-6, and they're oxidizing. So those seed oils are
a lot of them I hate too. You're right.
Killing us. Okay.
You know, you and I agree on a lot of stuff about nutrition, and I would love to educate people to fill in the gaps about what vegans are missing. It took me a long time to figure it out, but I'm stronger than I've ever been in my life, and I'm pretty sure that I'm going to add 20, 30 years to my lifespan and keep the strength the whole time, as crazy as that sounds. And I've got 2,000 years of evidence to back it up. And then Schwarzenegger just did a documentary called The Game Changers, where he goes over the vegan athletes that are holding records in the top of their respective sports. And that's where I discovered the world's strongest man, Patrick Bonneman, or whatever his name is. And I started following his diet, and I've been kicking ass. I mean, even my amino acids, everything comes from plant-based. And the best argument I've ever heard is that we're missing B12. And I found out that even meat eaters would be missing B12 if it wasn't injected into the buttocks of the animals that we're eating. So they got ahead of this a long time ago by giving these supplements that meat eaters think they can avoid to the meat, so that they're not really avoiding anything. It's coming secondhand through the farming techniques, which I used to be a part of in Tennessee when I lived on a hobby cattle farm. We used to inject things into the cow for nutrients, but I didn't know what they were. But it's a bacteria that used to grow in the soil, and farming practices have ruined it. And so even the cows don't get it anymore. And so we have to inject it into them before we eat it. So I just get mine from a plant-based source that I pour in my shakes. And I don't feel like I'm a boy in a bubble or anything because I'm doing it that way. And I'm not missing anything. I ran 7 miles in less than an hour the other day. And for a guy that can bench 350 to be able to run 7 miles in less than an hour, only weighing 208 pounds at age 49, I didn't even hope to be able to do this stuff when I was a meat eater. I kind of felt sick, and I didn't know what it was because I was doing all this other stuff the same. The only difference was I was eating carcasses and milk and cheese and butter and eggs. And it turns out that's what William Bergdorfer was using to grow these things before they sprayed them into our gut bacteria. He was culturing them in eggs. So it turns out that all these vegetarians that think they're sidestepping something, that's literally the food of choice for Rickettsia helvetica and the other weaponized things that Fort Detrick has been working on for political control. Now, you won't remember this now, and you probably won't write it down, but if you go to a disclosure document that happened in August 2000 called Rebuilding America's Defenses, which was produced by a think tank made of military intelligence people such as Michael Bolton, they released this to the public, and this is part of a predictive programming technique that they do to condition the public for things they've probably already been up to. But if you go to page 60 of Rebuilding America's Defenses, the PDF.
Oh, wait, I only have disclosure. What do I disclosure, and what else do I type?
If you just put in Rebuilding America's Defenses PDF.
Wait.
And this is why I'm vegan. Literally, when I read this, that was it for me. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I've never met a vegan ever in my life that has this as the reason that pushed them. And if you go to page 60, it's going to take you a minute because it never lines up with the page turner that program that it's using. But it's literally going to be printed as page 60 at the bottom. Paragraph 2 on the left of page 60, the first sentence and the last sentence are game changers. And they confirm everything that's found in the book Bitten by Chris Newby regarding the disclosure that William Bergdorfer gives on his deathbed in 2013 to her on video about how our government has been tinkering in our first brain with intracellular parasites.
It's a movie too?
Are undetectable. What?
Is it a movie also?
No, somebody would be dead. Perhaps you've heard of The Gray State. That guy's dead. The Gray State movie maker got pretty close to putting the movie out, and then they killed him. So these
this one I have it. Is it here? Can you share my screen, Jeff?
Yeah. It's a document. It's a PDF called Rebuilding America's Defense.
Maybe it's just a video of a PDF.
No, this is a PDF. You have to put PDF after Rebuilding America's Defenses, and then you'll find it.
I just want to show. I just want you to see this though, just to see if it's also that. Is Jeff able to share? Or? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought
you can just read it to me too. Yes, that's it. You got it.
But maybe it's actually like, okay, it's just pages. Okay.
Yeah, if you can get to page 60 and then go to paragraph 2, and then the first sentence is a long one and the last sentence is a long one, and you can read them in context if you want to take the time. That's fine. But
I might not be able. I'll put a big for you guys. Which paragraph?
page 60.
Yeah, I'm on 60. Which paragraph?
Are you sure? Look at the bottom of the page. That doesn't look like page 60 to me.
Well, it said 60.
See, they never line up with the software that produces. See, I've done this a lot.
Here, got it.
Okay.
Good,
that big long second paragraph, the first sentence and the last sentence basically is a disclosure that the public never cared about, but it's right there in front of us. And this is 23 years before they ran the COVID op on us.
You guys can check this out. Okay, so in closing, just want to share. Okay, so anyways, in closing, I think that the Christianity question was responded. I understand that you don't agree with perhaps the validity of what's inside or reliability and stuff, but I'm just saying, like, I do take it as reliable. And
I do agree with the validity of your evidence about Paul saying that vegans are weak.
Because like, we can have other talks too and stuff. Like I don't have like I've learned to not have like that coercive like anxiety of trying to like I'm trying to sell you a car and stuff. I just want it to, as best possible, represent my faith and do it with.
What about the truth? What about the truth? I mean, what if the truth took you away from your faith? Would you be capable of that?
Well, I think I would, because I did 20 years of doing everything possible but it. At the same time, like everyone absorbs the Bible, even if you don't want to, and everyone goes and kind of flips through once in a while. So, no, perhaps you may believe I've come to the wrong conclusion. You know, maybe you could think of totally, he was public. I did 20 years, and I did a lot of other spiritual paths and stuff like that. The Bhagavad Gita, Kabbalah, Zohar, Krishnamurti, Eckhart Tolle, anything and everything. Because I was searching, I was hungry. There was that void that I know that I was filling with worldly things, and I came to that conclusion that this is not sustainable. And then when God was put there, then things started to move along. And I do feel that God was in my life prior to accepting Christ. I believe that God was around me, influencing me, but I personally do feel a difference, that it's like, oh, he was around, but now he's entered and stuff like that.
Yes.
That's a really subjective, personal. No, I'm not trying to convince you whether I know.
I'm just trying, but I was just trying to add to what you said when you said he had to enter. I'm a little bit. I've been researching demonology, and just so you know, two souls can't enter the same heart at the same time. And so any human being that ever existed possessed at least a soul, if not a higher vibrational version of the soul that we carry. But in demonology, you have to, of your own free will, ask a demon into your heart. And so when I realized what this meat eating, blood drinking thing was, it was 10 times harder to ask it back out.
All right.
But it's easy when you're vegan. It's a lot easier when you're vegan.
Oh, that's good for you. All I can say is I did 20 years. It was an honest search. If you look at the amount of content that I put out, nobody would put that much effort into speaking about something that they, in a way, really did not believe. Are there a lot of gaps? Are there a lot of vague gray areas still that I have to research into? Yes. everybody has vagueness and stuff like that. So,
I
but
appreciate that. Me too.
For me, it reached a certain threshold where there was enough evidence that I started to go, well, maybe I should try it open-mindedly, because things were not working spiritually for me. So I basically said, God, I'm not comfortable with this Jesus thing. I said, but if this is the way that you want me to approach you, I don't want to be in rebellion, so I will try it. And my heart, as I'm trying this, that I'm even uncomfortable, because I feel like this might be a bad thing, like you're hinting at. So I did that. I said the prayer, and I said, if this is the way, then yes, I do accept Jesus accept Jesus' atoning sacrifice for my sin, and yes, I do want the Holy Spirit to come and enter my life, and that's it. So I did do that prayer, and indeed I did invite a spirit. And I think that that's the whole point, that the soul, is a vessel. And
no, the body's a vessel.
Well, there's the body,
the vessel. There's no room for anything else that's soul or better.
Let me tell you what I see it. Yes, there's the shell, there's the physical body. Then within that, the way I see it, not making a statement of truth, is the soul, which houses your own spirit,
free will,
and and your spirit, is, from a Christian perspective, is blind now to God. There is a sin that has occurred, and there is a distance now. There is a chasm in between. So
agreed.
You invite the Holy Spirit, and it is the Holy Spirit, the passages say, that is a witness and that testifies to the truth. And this is something that I experienced subjectively internally, and then read it, and it was like, wow, book's really opening up when things that are happening to me that I'm trying to perhaps explain in my head using physical terms, and stuff like that. Like
no, I get it. I didn't mean to get you stuck on that. I just thought, I wasn't sure if you misspoke that or what, but
I might be deluded, but
I just didn't want people to think that the soul's a China doll that other souls can come play in. That's not the way it works.
No, for me, that's the danger. Is that it's the soul is this temple, is the housing unit. Your spirit, your personhood that makes you unique, me unique, is there, and then after there is the Holy Spirit that I am asking to come and dwell within me, in my temple, in the temple.
But that's not Jesus, because Jesus was a third component of the Trinitarian concept.
Right. He sends the Holy Spirit, but when it comes to essence, nature, and stuff like that, there's three different personhoods or minds that are involved. But they're all of the same essence, nature, and quality. So therefore, I can say that, the Spirit of Christ that dwells in me, that cries out, Abba, Father. Because there's an important difference I find Trinitarians sometimes forget to mention, is we're going to be like sons of God. We're not going to be like God. We're not going to be the Father. Jesus has a son. Jesus has a father. They say God the Father, the Son of God, and the Holy Spirit. You ever notice people sometimes will say God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit? Well, that's not in Scripture. So I'm very careful to not squish everything and anything together. It says that we will be like Jesus. Therefore, we will be transformed into daughters, children of God, with this nature that Jesus has, serving willingly with love his Father, and having that loving father relationship.
Correct.
So there's a lot of misunderstandings and stuff like that I definitely speak out of. Hell is another thing. There's Conditional Immortality by Edward Fudge and stuff like that. I was shocked when I was like, okay, so where is all of this Dante Inferno stuff? And it's amazing how you can have that, and you're reading through it and you're seeing it. And this guy popped it up, and he's like, no, it's conditional immortality. But that's for another time.
Have you heard that reincarnation was part of the Christian infrastructure for the first 100 years of its existence until Justinian, a Roman emperor, in 553 CE, his wife, who was not a very respected woman, she was known as kind of a harlot of the town. She saw an opportunity to make herself above everyone else in deification by snipping their knowledge of their divinity, like a circumcision, a spiritual circumcision, so that people wouldn't know that they existed before their parents invented the zygote that they then indwelled. They wanted to cut off the soul's knowledge of its pre-existence before its last birth cycle. And so in 553 CE, Justinian, and they hide it not under the word reincarnation, they hide it under originism, and they blame that on anyway. But that up until that point, statements like Jesus saying that John the Baptist was the reincarnation of Elijah was just part of the flow. There wasn't a religion that existed in the world that would have even thought to be the laughing stock of the other ones by suggesting that we're not reincarnated divine souls. That was base 101 spirituality. But this ever worsening invention that Paul started kept getting worse and worse, and they kept cutting off more and more knowledge. They burned a library down to make sure we didn't know any spiritual information that came before this indoctrination with the library at Alexandria, I believe. But it just goes on and on. But when we go back and we research this, we find out that the crucified person said not only does eating not eating the wrong foods lowers your ability to connect to your cloud storage of previous experiential data, and that your soul will be limited in its vision and in its ability to see far into its past by its choice of diet. So people that keep their third eye clean by not eating suffering and sacrifice and blood and those things, the nets of Belial, would be the people that could receive the word of God most effectively. And these people, according to the Christian religion, these were the base translators for the original church, were called the Sons of Light. And they were 100% clean. And that was no one confused what that meant until Paul and Peter did. And I would say that it was done absolutely as part of the tax money government subjugate matrix.
Yeah. Like I said, like I completely understand that. Let's say you went down another trail. You're like, hey, this is suspicious or something.
I kind of live in the first century. I've spent the last 15 years.
You've come. That's fine. To those kind of conclusions.
Well, there is no conclusion. That would be camping out on the road.
Here, it's a lot of hearsay.
You
know what I mean? It's a lot of and I understand that for you were planning like just a dialogue and stuff like that. So that's completely fine. It's just that me being invited. Is he muted? I can't hear him.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I thought you were maybe muted or something. I don't think that I think that the Bible, the collection of the Bible, how it was canonized, I think that it's very reliable. So we definitely are completely opposite on that. I used the Bible as is to the question in relation to Christianity and is Christianity against veganism? For me, coming here, that's all that I really wanted to focus on, because we can go on very, very wide tangents. So I was going to say, like, I don't even want to get into like, well, now I have to prove that is actually what was written.
Which thing's in question? I'm sorry, I got confused.
I'm just saying, like, for me as a Christian,
Right, but what thing did I
They
said?
defended.
Do you wish I could reference? Because maybe I can. I don't know what you weren't understanding. I mean, you try and use things that you can easily access that are part of the Christian understanding, like the Sons of Light being the discerning group that can tell the difference between the lower and higher meaning of written pesher is not contested in Christianity. The Sons of Light, that was their purpose, and somehow it slowly dissolved out of modern Christian narratives. But anybody that goes back will find out that, and any bishop will tell you he's absolutely right. The Sons of Light were the only ones that could be trusted for the higher interpretation of Scripture. That's why that's why they were called what they were called. But at some point, and they were a splinter group of the Zadokite lineage. If you want to do any research onto the Zadokite splinter group, the Sons of Light, they were exiled by the governments of the time because they were trying to keep people righteous, and the governments weren't. They were bent on something else. And so we see that they never wrote anything down and produced it and mass published it because they knew it would be used for nefarious control. And that's exactly what ended up happening. And we find in the Dead Sea Scrolls that they just kind of stuffed this crap in caves to try to reach us later with it. But the Dead Sea Scrolls are very accurate about the diet and the reasons why the diet was the diet. And the Sons of Light were clear that Daniel was the one that had it right. And they go into great detail of the scrolls about why Daniel had it right.
If you limit it to these things that you've brought up, kind of the things where I'm like, I'm not saying anything, but I'm questioning where's your evidence? Like cough something up for me and stuff like that. If you want to if ever like do another talk about thunder and stuff like that, I'll go do my research too. I have not gotten into, okay, let's go to the earliest church fathers. Let's try and see what they were writing and kind of
go. But we can stick to Paul, and I wish we had, because then you wouldn't have been had any anxiety about it. But what you originally brought up about Paul was correct. But in context, brought into context, he wasn't just having that speech for people to listen to him like a crazy person. He was in a situation. He was sweating in a situation where James was having a back and forth with him, and the engagement was tense because Paul was trying to become the leader of a movement in the eyes of the Gentiles, but James was clearly the actual leader of that movement. And the Bible does everything it can to try to demonize his leadership role. But James was anti-money and he was anti-meat. And Paul was scrambling to raise money and convert everybody to meat. And Paul was taking shots at James in public, saying, vegans are weak. And that wasn't a mistranslation. That nails it. I mean, he was trying to say they were weak because he had an agenda that most of us don't alchemically understand. But Pythagoras did.
Can you screen share again, Jeff?
Sure. And we just hit the 2-hour mark. I'm going to, if you guys don't mind,
we can wrap
open up the panel.
So look, all I'm saying is we can have a debate about what should be in the Bible, what shouldn't, and alternate truths about stuff and corruption, all that stuff.
Okay,
but
I'm open.
What I'm saying is, I was just answering the simple question: is Christianity against veganism? Any Christian Jeff, that is telling you that you're going to hell for being a vegan and stuff like that is not following what they should be following. They're being stupid. Okay, to put it bluntly. But it is very clear that it's not just in one phrase. I did put down multiple stuff on the PowerPoint. Here is Peter's vision again. Get up, Peter, kill and eat. And Peter really didn't want to, because he had always followed those customs for Levitical law. The voice spoke to him a second time, and it says, "Do not call anything impure that God has made clean." And then we don't have to pop this one up, but it says over here in 8, but not everyone possesses this knowledge. Some people are still so accustomed to idols that when they eat sacrificial food, they think of it as having been sacrificed to a small god, a little god. And since their conscience is weak, it is defiled. But food does not bring us near to God. We are no worse if we do eat, and we are no better if we do. And here again, this is Jesus. So we have Peter, and then here again, Jesus, says, there's nothing outside a person that by going into him can defile him, but the things that come out of a person are what defile him. And when he has entered the house and left the person, his disciples asked again, and he said, do you not see that whatever goes into a person from outside cannot defile him, since it enters not his heart, but his stomach, and is expelled? Thus he declared all foods clean.
That
So
had a
I'm
dual motive of making people eat meat and limiting free speech.
This can be the conspiracy.
It's not a conspiracy. It's right out there in the open.
You're going down a route which could variably be the truth, and I could be deluded. And I know once you go down there, the next steps that build the whole thing. So you're making a lot of.
They're telling you to eat whatever you want, but watch what you say. That sounds like something the government's been doing for far too long.
Yeah, no, it's eat whatever you want, and don't put other people down for what they're eating.
Yeah,
because
like the woke world we live in now. You can't say anything, but you can eat whatever you want.
But all this has to do with spiritual matters. All that they care here.
It's the same cult playing in this, doing the same thing, but 2,000 years ago, from that frame of reference, with the technology they had at their disposal, and they're doing the same thing now, just with a much higher set of technologies, including the shots and what they're spraying over us, according to William Bergdorfer, and the meat, it's what's for dinner, beef, it's what's for dinner, got milk. I mean, all those things are being subsidized and pushed on us cheaply as the low-hanging fruit on the dollar menu, while we're all suffering from 600 plus different misdiagnoses of a bioweapon that's undetectable by hospitals.
Hey, we got old man J.D. Garland here, back from the dead. How you doing, old man?
Can you hear me, Jeffrey?
Yes.
Okay. I'm doing well.
Got a new mic, I see. I can hear you clear now.
Oh, good. That's good.
Do you have anything to add to this conversation?
Nicholas had everything wrong on the farming. If that's an indication of how deep his research goes, I think that
Be specific. Farming?
Okay, well, farming and nutrition.
You mean B12?
B12, for instance.
What specifically was I wrong about?
Well, everything. We'll start with one thing. You said it was a bacteria.
Yes, B12 is a bacteria.
No, it is not. No, it is not.
Okay.
B12 is not a bacteria.
It grows in the soil.
B12 is. B12 comes in many different varieties, Nicholas.
But it starts as bacteria in the soil.
Nicholas, not all bacteria produce B12, and the ones that do produce many different types of B12. Some of those B12, a couple of them, are bioactive in human beings. The kind that the bacteria produce in the ground, that's cyanocobalamin, which is not bioactive in human beings, and it is poorly converted.
How am I still alive 8 years after not getting any proper B12?
Nicholas, you're not B12.
Alive.
B12 is not a bacteria.
It is. Look it up.
No, it's not. I can wait. I can wait. You're making an extraordinary claim that B12 is a bacteria.
Okay,
a living creature.
That's going to be a problem for you later when you watch this.
When I watch what?
When you watch yourself say that B12 isn't a bacteria.
It's not a bacteria.
It's
produced by bacteria.
From a bacteria first.
Okay, yes,
not from an animal.
It's produced by bacteria. It's not a bacteria.
Thank you.
Thank you. You admitted that you were wrong, right? Because you just admitted that you said that B12 was a bacteria.
All bioavailable B12 comes from a bacteria that grows in the soil.
Did you or did you not say that B12 is a bacteria?
I'm sorry. You're right. You're right.
Yes or no?
I got it wrong. I misnamed the bacteria species B12. You're right. I'm sorry. Can we move on to the part
Garland,
where
you're
you're
looking
wrong?
a little rough, man.
Thank you.
Tell me how
Thank you,
B12
Jeffrey.
comes from animals. Tell me how they have to eat it and we have to kill them first to get the right B12.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you why we used to shoot it in the ass of cows on my farm.
No, you just admitted earlier that you don't know what they were shooting in the ass of those cows. And I've never
I found
shot
out from my dad later.
Nicholas. Can you let me speak for a moment?
Okay.
You said a while ago that you were guessing. To this day, you don't know what they were shooting in those animals. Nicholas, you're
Okay.
spreading
You're right. I didn't read the
falsehood.
ingredients list.
We do not, by and large, it happens in isolated incidents where there's an animal that's ill, would conceivably be injected with B12, but they're not injected with B12 as a rule.
Arbitrarily as a rule, or you can't
No,
put it
they
on
are
the
not.
market.
No, they are not.
Okay.
That is not true. That is a false information that you're spreading.
Okay. All right.
You've heard that. You've
Well,
heard
then
that
that'll be the
somewhere
worst
else.
mistake I've made
You've
all
heard
day.
that. No, that's not the only mistake that you've so far. You've made that mistake, and you've also said that B12 was a bacteria. So
No,
you
that's
were
right. I
wrong
made
on
that
both
one
counts.
too. Damn it.
You were wrong on both counts.
I'll work
So
on it.
here's how it works. Let's talk about a ruminant. Okay, a ruminant is out there supposed to be grazing on pristine grassland, which is 100 different species of grasses, legumes, trees, bushes. There's all kinds of plants in a natural habitat that these ruminants would naturally be grazing upon. And that's the same environment that I'm simulating here on my farm, and other people like Greg Judy, Joel Salatin, all over the world. We're moving. It's a growing movement where we're mimicking nature and putting these animals on grass and moving them about just like they would move about on a natural prairie.
Sure.
Like a rotational grazing, if you've ever heard of that.
Sure.
Regenerative rotational grazing.
Totally get it. Yes.
Okay. So that's what I do. That's what other people, more and more people are doing that around the world. And
that makes a lot more sense now that I know you're a beef farmer. I'm sorry. I wouldn't have gone into this
No, he's a goat farmer.
the way I did if I knew.
I did. I still have some cows, but I transitioned into goats primarily. Yes.
Okay.
You transitioned your cows into goats?
I transitioned the operation.
Like trans goats? Trans
cows have rights too.
So they're out there eating this vegetation. It could be a little bit of twigs, some dead leaves, some live leaves, grasses, legumes, clovers, just, all these different species. They're getting a very large variety of nutrients in their diet. And that plant food is not to feed the cow. That's where I'm going to surprise you, is that plant food is not feeding the cow, because that cow has a rumen, and a rumen has a purpose, and that's to cultivate bacteria and other microorganisms, but primarily bacteria in the rumen. So in the first chamber, the bacteria is kind of introduced to the vegetation, and then it moves into the second chamber, and it's more bacteria and less vegetation. In the third chamber, it's mostly bacteria and all these other microorganisms and a little bit of vegetation, and all of that is dumped into the true stomach, which is full of hydrochloric acid, where those bacteria and other microorganisms are killed and digested and absorbed into the bloodstream and assimilated into the body as all of those essential fatty acids, essential amino acids, the B12, which is at that point it's cyanocobalamin, and cows, unlike humans, are terrific converters of cyanocobalamin into methylcobalamin. And so that's why when you eat a wild bison that's not had any shots, it's full of B12 because the bacteria are producing it. But we can't use the kind that the bacteria is producing. The cow needs to change it into the bioactive version, which is the methylcobalamin. The cyanocobalamin, Nicholas, is not bioactive.
I'm very impressed. I am impressed with what you're doing. I think that is one of the most modern worrying about the human gut health and the way that you're producing the food for the cows is just extremely intelligent. I applaud you. And again, I'm not in this because I was looking out for animal rights or any, and so I'm, as a scientist, I'm very impressed with what you're talking about. But I'm living proof that you're wrong about B12.
Well,
And I'll challenge anybody to any type of endurance or strength test who thinks I'm wrong. And I'm 49, and I'll challenge anybody at any age.
well, that's great. I'm glad that you're out there fighting your fight, creating your anecdotal example, and you can influence as many people as you can with your anecdote. But most vegans will run into health problems within the first 2 years, and that's why there's such a high dropout rate.
Absolutely. I almost died. You're right. I almost died because I didn't understand the need for saturated fats, cholesterols, amino acid profiles. But you guys check out, I meant to say this to you earlier, Jason. It's on Netflix. It's mainstream now. The Blue Zones. You got beef that's over 100. All these people that they go around.
Those are observational studies, and there's all types of co-founding.
Those studies are wrong.
Because the guy who did it eats meat. He didn't want or expect.
There are other factors that are present that have not been accounted for. Correlation is not causation. Correlation is not causation.
Okay. Well, that's the same argument that's the same argument against luck. That there's things that it's just a derogatory term for things that we haven't accounted for yet.
Nicholas, you're on the side of Monsanto. You're on the side of Bayer. You're on the side of DuPont.
I hate Monsanto.
They
make poison for a living. Why would you even say that?
They're what's driving them right now is the vegan diet. That's driving.
No, that's the government giving us
Nicholas. Vegans eat.
You get
vegans eat more vegetables. Per capita, vegans eat more ultra processed foods than any other group of eaters.
Says who? Says you?
You're right. They eat soy too. Shame on all those people.
There's research to back that up. Yeah.
I hate soy. I think soy, I agree with Jason about what soy does to the hormones. I think the reason I'm having such great
look,
is because it's not from soy. I'm eating the same thing that Patrick
can't hear you,
or whatever the world's strongest man is eating. It's all legumes and pea protein.
Can I share one thing just about the omega 3s for plants?
I'm like challenging everybody to. I'm from hemp seed oil. Go ahead.
No, it's just it's stuff like this. Like if people want to be vegan, on the vegan YouTube channels and stuff like that, they should be kind of going through and picking apart all the weakest angles, to be honest, to say like, yeah, if you want to do it, we're doing it for the animals and stuff like that. Watch out. There's certain things beyond B12 that can be an issue for people, and it can show up not immediately. It can show up years later. Over here, if you look,
agreed.
It says
most
more
adults are B12 deficient. Meat eaters are not.
Okay.
When you cook beef, it destroys the B12 in it. So this idea that
everyone
all meat eaters aren't B12 deficient is
everyone eats their
ridiculous.
beef well done, and no one eats sliver.
Yeah,
okay, let me just
you, dude. You're the guy.
I just want to bring this to the attention, because people will be like, no, I take the hemp seeds and chia and flax and stuff like that. I do get my chia seeds and stuff. I get my ALA, the omega-3 plants. I've seen this, and this is not a cherry pick study. Go see all of them. It's something that people should take into consideration. It says the parent fatty acid found in vegetable oils such as flaxseed or rapeseed oil is used by the human organism partly as a source of energy, partly as a precursor of the metabolites. But the degree of conversion appears to be unreliable and restricted. More specifically, most studies in humans have shown that whereas a certain, though restricted, conversion of high doses of ALA, that's the omega, to EPA occurs, conversion to DHA is severely restricted. The use of ALA labeled with radioisotope suggested that with a background diet high in saturated fat, which is really not often something that people are going for, but with a background diet high in saturated fat, conversion to the long chain metabolite is approximately only 6% or for EPA and 3.8 for DHA. But when you have a diet rich in the omega-6s, which we're all getting in any of the middle sections, always soybean oils, conversion, you half that by another 40 to 50%. Then go look at what EPA and DHA does in the body, especially for the brain. And it's like, why would I want to risk skimping on this? I want to thrive. I want ample. I don't want to get away with, while I'm not deficient. So there's these things that are bothersome. There's the BCO1 gene. And it's the same thing. Beta carotene oxygenase 1 is an enzyme which breaks down beta carotene into retinol, a form of vitamin A, and is encoded by the BCO1 gene. Efficient vitamin A metabolism is required for vital processes. There's some people that don't have this gene. It's like who's going to tell this poor sap that has no idea that they can't convert beta carotene? They're going to get.
Why haven't they told us that 2,000 years ago we were living to be over 100 years old on average if we followed a perfect diet, as compared to one that says is blessed?
I can challenge you with nutrition, physical degeneration, and there in anthropology is very clear what humans were and were not eating. Very clear. So
I'm just saying that I didn't know. Josephus confirms what Schwarzenegger found in his Game Changers documentary about gladiators.
Well,
these people were the strongest, baddest dudes on the planet, just like. And we're not supposed to know that, or why?
Well, when Game Changers got out, obviously everyone was waiting. A lot of the vegan community was talking about it, and the anti-vegan community were talking about it. They did a lot of follow-ups on that, and I have not followed up. Are they still on a vegan diet? A lot of the people that are inside that documentary. It came out, but now where are they? Are they vegan? And how long had they been vegan when they became vegan for Game Changers?
I missed the middle part of that. Would you go back about 30 seconds? And
are you saying that adults can be vegan, but they can't when they're young? Like, what do you mean by how long have they been
I'm
vegan?
saying he's trying to look at the documentary Game Changers to say
most of those people are most definitely still vegan. What do you mean they're not vegan anymore? Is that what you're claiming?
I said I haven't followed, but I am asking because I remember there were like follow-ups and stuff. How many of the people that are vegan in that documentary are still vegan?
100%.
I'm asking. I'm not making
100%.
Why are you asking us?
Because I had heard that at the time they were vegan, and then by the time it aired, there's some that they were no longer vegan.
Oh, they're talking about the Titans defense, the defensive, the defense for the Tennessee Titans. They did an experiment, and so this is not all. Most of them converted, but not all of them did. After the documentary, some of those football players went back to eating meat. Yeah. People have free will, and beating a demon that's been in your gut for that long is hard to do. It took me a long time to not like the smell of burning flesh and sacrifice.
No comment.
Now it smells like roadkill, and I don't worship that God anymore either.
Understood.
What else you got to say?
As long as it's clear
that like you're seething.
I think, yeah. Anyways, I think you've already mentioned it. For me, the importance was to come and to respond to the title about Christianity. If you acknowledge that, yeah, Christianity or the Bible as it is, yeah, it should not be condemning a person who wishes to follow a vegan diet. No,
Okay, so if the Bible it tells you not to fight over food, then why do you and JD fight over food so much?
For me, it's the only reason that I was talking about it was I think that there is a collusion and conspiracy to remove all the animal food one by one and to feed us a plant-based diet, and not only a plant-based diet, but a plant-based diet that is centralized pretty much by one or a very few large global
they would be
companies.
scrapping all of their biological weapons programs in our gut bacteria if they did that. That's why they're selling us
absolutely
that's
not
why they're selling
true.
us bugs and
Absolutely not
laboratory
true. It would be
meat.
ramping up their biological attack.
Bugs
It would
aren't
be
vegan,
ramping up their
JD.
biological attack, which is
Well,
coming
they've got
from
one for plants too.
It
Bill
comes
Gates
from
has the-
pesticides and the other petroleum-derived agrochemicals that are
Agreed.
used in the toxic factory monocropping that produces all of the items on the vegan menu.
Yes, they're controlling the whole game.
Veganism is just more death, more poisoning, destruction of the environment, tillage, constant tillage, which causes desertification.
No,
This
you've
is
gone
just
too far.
veganism is a corporate entity.
You got to
that
till
wants you- that wants
everything to
you
make your
dependent on-
regenerative grazing,
imagine-
Garland. You have to till everything.
You
They
have to
would be
kill
killing
everything
all
to
of.
grow the vegan diet, correct?
They need
You don't
animal
have to
cells.
kill every
For your regenerative
You don't need
grazing.
killing
All you have
ground
to do,
animals.
all you have to
Here.
do when you could regeneratively graze is put the ruminants out there and make sure they move on. When
You gonna
when
show
it's
us
time
some
for
more
them to move
videos
on.
about wild boars, Garland?
I could show
All right,
you
guys.
How about
wild
black
boars are getting
swan?
killed?
How about
I'm
koalas?
gonna,
You guys do
How
know
about
that
koalas?
we're the.
Nicholas,
You guys do know that
I'm
the
gonna
only
wish you
animal
well,
that
buddy.
has our digestive system is a pig, right?
guys,
The
I'm
only
leaving.
animal that exists
Monogastric.
that has
Later,
our digestive
Jason.
monogastric.
Let's organize another one with a better topic
Yeah.
next time.
Okay, wait. Nicholas, thank you for coming on, man. It was a pleasure meeting you. Jeff,
You too.
thanks for having me on, man. I'm gonna leave it. Oh, Garland left. I was gonna say. All right, see you, man.
Later, Jason.
Thanks for reaching out, Jeff. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Good to meet you.
Garland rage quit, like usual.
Wow.
Well, we should hammer down a less vague.
I don't say. But he evidently.
We should hammer down a less vague debate topic next time. Something that you guys could get a little bit more deeper on. It seems like Jason just wanted to use the fact that I had a vague topic to
every time we
get out of the debate. Go ahead.
Right. No, that's it. It's just I was trying to stay on target. I was trying to use the evidence that he respected, and it was just a bunch of wiggling, and I couldn't nail him down on anything, on any terms that he provided me with, and I was trying to be flexible, but
you should come up with a new premise. You know, something. Obviously, I just thought of that one just because I don't even, whatever. But you should come up with a new premise and I'll present it to him.
Okay. Okay. Well, I've got some things I've got to get to. So good. Happy editing.
All right, man.
Please send me a copy.
Cool. All right, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
See ya. You're... Woo! Okay, so yeah. That was fun. If you guys have any debates you want moderated, there wasn't much moderation in this debate because it wasn't really a debate, more of a discussion. But if you guys have anyone you want to debate or have a debate you want to do that you want me to find a